everyone, it's Hailey, and today I'm going to be talking about some book series that I don't think I will ever end up finishing. I was debating whether I wanted to film this video or if I wanted to film a video talking about some book series that I still need to finish, and I do plan on finishing, but I decided to go with this one. I might end up filming that other one after, we'll see, but if that is something that you'd like to see, please let me know. But I have kind of realized this year that I don't really like series that much. I definitely prefer standalones. It takes me forever to finish with a series because a lot of times by the time a sequel comes out, I've lost interest, and I just would much rather like experience a new world and new characters and all of that. So I just don't really like continuing with series a lot. I feel like that might be an unpopular opinion, but that's just kind of how I feel about things. So the fact that I don't plan on continuing with these series doesn't mean anything about the first book. Some of them maybe I didn't like it, but a lot of them I enjoyed it. I don't feel like continuing. I don't feel the need to continue with it. So why continue when I have so many other books that I would like to read? I'm actually also going to be checking on my Goodreads because I do still have some books packed because we are at the in-between apartment right now, but I didn't want to miss any. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first book is actually one that I read very recently, and that is This Poisoned Heart by Kaylin Bayron. So this is by the author of Cinderella is Dead, and I really enjoyed Cinderella is Dead, but I kind of had mixed feelings on This Poisoned Heart. I felt like the story took too long to get going, and it was very interesting, a very different fantasy. Like, it's an urban fantasy that heavily features plants, and that was super cool. It's a loose secret garden retelling, so I did enjoy that, but I just didn't really ever get into the story enough to want to continue with a series of it. I feel like I'm content with where I have left things, and I don't need to read any further. So I believe there is a sequel that is due to come out next year, but I will probably be skipping that one. I just didn't enjoy this one quite as much as Cinderella is Dead, and I don't see myself, like, maybe I would pre-order it, but then it would take me forever to read, so I'm not gonna bother with it and just accept the fact that I'm fine with just the one book. Next is An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. So I have super mixed feelings on this book. I don't even really know how I feel about it, to be honest. After I finished it, I felt like I had to kind of mull it over a little bit, but I still, like, I don't really remember how I felt about it. I just remember being kind of confused and never settling on where I was, and I believe there's actually a sequel out now. I feel so out of touch with everything, so I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but I'm like pretty positive that there's a sequel out now and it's like orange with purple writing. I'm probably wrong on that, but the point is, realistically, since I don't even remember what happened in this book and I kind of feel like I need to reread it, I don't think I would ever actually pick up a sequel. So I'm not the hugest fan of sci-fi, and maybe that's why this one didn't work for me, but I just kind of need to accept that. Next is Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas. I'm not like, I really don't know if I want to continue with this. I feel like for some reason Sarah J Maas sequels just have a way of sucking me in, even though it takes me forever to read them. But I feel like for this one, I didn't love it as much as I had wanted to. I know a lot of people, this is like their favorite of her books. They think it's the best she's ever written, but for me, I didn't feel that. I didn't feel like it worked that well for me. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. And for her books that take so much out of me because they're very, very big, they have like the Bible pages and all of that. Do I really want to try and trudge through a series when I haven't even finished Throne of Glass, and I also still need to read A Court of Silver Flames? I just don't think that it's realistic to think that I might actually continue with the series. So I'm trying to accept it and make a decision. Next is The 1000th Floor by Katharine McGee. I pretty much, when I started this book, knew that I probably wouldn't continue with the series, and there was no particular reason for it, just because I don't know, I just felt like it wasn't a series that I would like to continue with for whatever reason. But this is like Gossip Girl, except it's set in the future and it's set in this giant building where there's like thousands of floors, and which floor you are on kind of dictates where you are in society, your level in society. So it's very interesting. There was a lot going on, really twisted, tangled webs, all of that. I think maybe if I had the sequel already, I would have picked it up eventually. maybe if I tried to prioritize it close to when I first read this book, but I do feel okay just having read the first one. I enjoyed it and I was fine with the ending. Even though it was kind of like a cliffhanger, I don't feel like I missed anything by not continuing. Next is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. So this book actually came out a while ago, and then there was a sequel that came out years and years later. And when authors do that, I'm always kind of a little bit skeptical, and I'm sure it's probably good, but I'm just fine with a series being over and then moving on to the next thing. I don't know. It's just the way that I work. I like to move on to something new. So I just don't think that I would ever, like this one I can pretty much solidly say that I will never pick up the sequel. This was a very interesting read on its own, and it acted like a standalone for so long that I feel like I just don't need a sequel. Next is Three Dark Crowns by Kendara Blake. So this series is kind of an interesting instance because I tried so hard to love this. I felt so bad for not loving it because the concept just seemed amazing. It seemed like everything I would love, but I kind of feel like the hype got me a little bit for this one, and I was in love with the idea of it basically because did I read 2 or 3 of the books? I'm not sure if I read 2 or 3 of the books. Is it a 4-book series or a 3-book series? That could tell me, but the point is I did read at least one of the sequels, but I just didn't care. Like, I saw the potential. I was like, oh, it could get better, but it just didn't really in that second book. And I think I had the 3rd book and then I ended up unhauling it because I was like, I'm not actually gonna pick this up. So I am happy with that decision because ultimately I feel like there are so many other books that I'd rather read, and I don't want to just be reading a series based on its potential and hype. I would rather read something that I actually love. Next is Fury Born by Claire Legrand. This is a classic case of I just waited too long. This happens so often, but I definitely just waited too long for this one. I think I actually still have the sequel somewhere. Maybe I packed it. Maybe I did finally unhaul it. I don't even know. I thought I had it. Whatever. But the point is, I don't know where anything is right now, so struggles. But this was a really cool high fantasy. It was a lot of fun, very interesting, kept me on the edge of my seat. I had a good time reading it, but I just think I waited too long. I mean, no, it wasn't me who waited too long. It's if I read something when it first comes out and then I have to wait for the sequel, I kind of just get distracted by other things. So when the sequel did finally come out, I just didn't really feel inclined to pick it up, and that just never really changed. A similar situation with Unearthed by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. This one, I definitely waited too long. It was a really cool, like, temple run sort of story. It kind of read like a video game, which was interesting, and I did enjoy this a lot, but I definitely waited too long for this one. I read this close to when the sequel came out, and it was too far gone by the time I was ready for it, and that is tragic because I did really like this one, and I know like I could theoretically reread it, but will I really? Probably not. Next is Walk on Earth a Stranger by Ray Carson. This is definitely one that I picked up once again with the mind of I wouldn't continue with it. And I don't know how to explain that, but this is a story about a girl who can sense where gold is, and it's a historical fiction set at the time of the gold rush. So a really interesting time to have that ability, obviously, but I enjoyed the first book and I just knew like I wasn't going to continue with it. It wasn't bad. I liked it a lot. I thought the concept was interesting, but I just didn't want more. Next is another book that I read this year, Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angeles. I did enjoy this book. It kind of confused the crap out of me, but I did think it was very cool. However, I think I was just left too confused to actually want to continue with the story. I might change my mind on this one. The next book is coming out probably in like December or something when the night breaks, so I might change my mind. I'm not 100% sure with this one, but as of now, I don't really see myself picking up the sequel, but it kind of could go either way. Next is Unwind by Neil Shusterman. This is another situation where there was the one book and then there were actually 3 more added on, and I feel very content with where Unwind ended. I didn't want any more. Unwind was so like creepy and unsettling and a very, very unique dystopian story, and I was happy with one book. Great. I don't think I could even get through 3 more. I just think that the first book was so unsettling. Like, there's certain scenes that stick out in my mind that I wouldn't want to read anymore. Next is A Book of Spirits and Thieves by Morgan Rhodes. The reason that I'm not continuing with this one, even though I did actually have the second book, is because there were supposed to be 3 or 4 books and then they decided they're not going to publish them anymore. So I don't really see the point of continuing with a series even though it's not going to ever be finished, because that would just frustrate me. I did really enjoy the first book. It's an urban fantasy and it is set in Toronto, which was very cool, but I would feel very unsatisfied not getting the conclusion that I felt like I was due, even though like I don't really like reading sequels that much. I don't think that makes sense. It just makes me think basically of how Sue Grafton was writing her alphabet like mystery stories and she died when she was writing Zed. It is the most tragic thing ever. I am so sad. Like obviously it's tragic that she died, but like she was so close, literally so close to finishing the entire thing. And I used to walk by the display of those books when I was working at the bookstore and I would get mad every time I passed it because so close. Another series that I actually don't plan on finishing is the Land of Stories series by Chris Colfer. I read the first book. It was a lot of fun, like combining fantasies. It felt like basically a fantastical version with literary references of what's it called? Magic Treehouse series. So I feel like if you liked those ones, which are like 6 to 8-year-old books, and you're looking to transition into middle grade, or you have like a child who's doing that, the Land of Stories series is a great series to go on to after the Magic Treehouse books, but I digress. Basically, I enjoyed the first book a lot, but I just have a lot of other books that I would rather read. I don't think they're bad by any means. Like I did have the second book at one point, but I just never felt the inkling to pick it up. Next is Sky Hunter by Marie Lu. So this one kind of goes without saying because I didn't even finish the first book, so why would I continue with the series? But I did still want to mention it. Next is Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. The book is actually up there, but I kind of forgot about it until I was scrolling through Goodreads here. But this has a second book called Unravel the Dusk, and I thought I might actually pick this one up. So I'm still kind of torn on it, but from what I had seen of the reviews, a lot of people felt like they were satisfied with just leaving it at the first book, which is why I haven't really gone for it. I did really enjoy Spin the Dawn. It was a very cool world, and it was kind of more of a world that I wanted to see, so that's why I thought maybe I'd pick it up, but the reviews for it kind of turned me off of it. And it's not that I let reviews or other people decide what I'm going to read, but if I'm kind of on the fence about something, I will take a look at them to see if I do actually want to read what I'm thinking of reading. Another one that I'm actually unsure about that I have over here is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. So I did enjoy Ninth House, but I just don't know if it's really a world that I would like to be back in. And that's not saying that was a bad book, but I just don't know if I want to hear more about Alex's story or get back in that ghosty world. Maybe in October I will change my mind, but as of right now, I'm kind of on the fence with that one too. For sure, a series that I won't be continuing with is The Betrothed by Kira Cass. I just did not like The Betrothed at all, and it had like potential to be what the selection was, but it didn't get there, and I don't even know what would happen in the sequel because the first book, like pretty much nothing happened. It was all very strange, so definitely not one I would be continuing with. I think those are really all of the books that I definitely won't be continuing the series. There is actually also The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker, but that's kind of more of a companion thing. I enjoyed The Simple Wild, not as much as everyone else seems to have enjoyed it, but I'm satisfied with where it was left. Actually, there's also The Babysitter's Coven by Kate Williams and These Witches Don't Burn by Isabel Sterling. So the reason that I don't really want to continue with either of these, and I'm mentioning them at the same time, is because I read them way too close together. They were too similar of stories that I read close together, and now I can't remember which one is which. I keep on getting the storylines of them mixed up. So I think in order to read the sequels, I would have to reread them. And while I did like them, I don't think I liked them enough to want to reread a sequel to want to reread the first one in order to read a sequel. Another one that I'm actually torn on is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. So I thought for sure, I was like, no, I'm not going to want to read the sequel, but as I got through it, I was like, a sequel could be very interesting. I think there's like 3 more books out at this point. So let me know if you think that one might be worth continuing with, because I am kind of considering it. Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin is another series I won't be continuing with. I didn't really like the first book very much. I felt like there was so much hype surrounding it and I was just very let down by it. So why would I continue? There's actually probably so many more that I'm forgetting about, like actually the Falling Kingdom series by Morgan Rhodes too. I just waited too long for that one to finish it. But if you guys would like me to do a second round of this video, I can for sure do it because I know that there are some that I'm forgetting. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, don't forget to click that subscribe button and also click the bell icon so you'll be notified whenever I post. I post new videos 2 to 3 times a week. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in a new one soon. Bye!